in the Congo enters his second season at stud at Newgate in 2024, following on from being the most popular first season sire in Australia last year. 169 mares covered, 1 in 4 of those were stakes performers themselves. 1 in 5 were 2-year-old winners themselves, so he's a young horse, extremely well set up through his first season, and delighted today to be joined by his co-trainer, Adrian Bott, the man that raised in the Congo, Mr. John Kelly of Newhaven Park, and Henry Field, of course, from Newgate Farm. John, I thought we'd start with you, given that the whole story within the Congo really started with you. Talk us through your first memory in the Congo, the first time you sort of stood up and took notice of him on the farm.
Well, I suppose, Bruce, his mother coming to Newhaven was a big thing at the time. You know, like it took them about 14 months to get her from South Africa to Newhaven. So, because she had to do all the quarantine through Europe and everything with African horse sickness. And when she turned up, she's a very imposing mare. She's not big, but very powerful. And so we were always interested. You know, she was a superstar in South Africa, a proper Group 1 mare. So we decided to go to Schnitzel, obviously. It was hard to find the right mating because the blood was not blood that we knew, but we worked on the pretense that, you know, that good of outcross was going to work. So we went to the best that we thought we knew in Australia, which was Schnitzel, the reduced choice line, which is doing so well. And she went in foal nice and early, and he was born, and he was a magnificent foal from the first time you saw him. You know what I mean? Like, it's not... He was just all in the right proportions, and he remained that his whole life. He never changed. I think that's probably the thing that I remember most about him, was that he was always a beautiful horse. You know what I mean? And you know, he's got the flashy white legs and the big white blaze, and so that was my first memory of him. I thought when the first morning he was born, I was excited, and that's a good feeling to have.
Yeah, and I think he sort of carried that through now to the stud, hasn't he? Like, he was a horse this year when we paraded him for people on farm, and we obviously had him coming out to some ripping music through the parades. But outside of that, the on-farm parades leading the season, he got a lot of momentum around that, didn't he?
Yeah, he's a spectacular horse. Just as John said, he's just almost perfectly proportioned, with extraordinary amount of muscle through him, muscle definition. There's no horse on our farm or of any of our stallions, the power over his back, like if you look at him from behind, he's like got a heart shape over his hindquarters. He's that powerful with that muscle tone. He's a beautiful horse, and as you say, he was very, very well received by the breeders last year.
Yeah, so you breed this. I mean, this is a pretty unique story. I mean, Via Africa was like the black caviar of South Africa. She was just the unbeatable sprinter, super fast. So John, it must have been exciting when she landed, like you say. She's what you thought she might be physically. You've bred her to Schnitzel, got the gun colt by Schnitzel. It's the time when, you know, we've got a really well-organised group of stallion colt syndicates ready to buy horses like that. I mean, full throttle, right? And then COVID hits. He's heading to Easter, COVID hits. And now suddenly you're dealing with a whole different dynamic sale time. Talk us through that and how you worked it out.
Well, it was devastating, if you want to know the truth. we had him, and we only had a draft of about 10 or 11 for Easter, our normal size, and we had 3 not a single doubt colts. And we just thought we had everything lined up perfectly to go. And COVID hits, and all of the buyers basically went to the Hunter Valley. They were none of them coming to Burrawa. And I think our horses went into the parade ring at that Easter yearling sale with 19 inspections.
Far out.
So you can imagine we knew we were going to get an absolute pasting. And I actually, I thought Henry liked the horse, and I rang Henry. And I said, look, Henry, with this horse, I said, I know, he's a bloody beautiful horse, but if we put 400 on him, and Henry said, you put 400 on him and I'll buy him.
There you go.
There you go. Can't be any fairer than that, can you?
So we put 400 on him, and he got sold, and the rest is history. But it was, you know what it's like when you're a breeder and you get a beautiful horse out of a Group 1 winning mare by the Champions Day, and you're going to Easter. Well, you just think, we're going to go down there, we're going to get all this momentum, and it'll be a great day. And that was just ripped away. And as I said, that Easter sale actually didn't end up too bad. But for us, down at Burrawa, we were out, we're 5 hours out of the hunt, we got nothing.
Myself and Gavin Murphy and Stevie O'Connor made the road trip to Burrawa. It was a great trip. We took a few wrong turns, but it was
trying to get around the police.
Because all the exemptions and COVID and whatever else. Anyway, so after risking the police and doing all that, we finally got down there, and I remember the horse walking out of the box, and I can tell you he was just the most, like when I saw him, he was just the most magnificent horse. I remember seeing him in the yearling barn there at New Haven Park, just up from where Richard's house is, and geez, he's a magnificent horse. And and I didn't look at him for that long, but I knew John could see I had it in my eye, and I love the horse, and it was great. John was it was a very tough. It was a funny sale. It was the COVID sale, but it was, as you said, we were probably lucky that it was the COVID sale, because we probably wouldn't have been able to buy him. He might have been such an expensive horse if it wasn't for that. So anyway, we bought a lot of good horses off you, John. It's good to pay $100 for one.
Good on you. They're all at unders, Henry.
At the time, it was also when, I guess, they weren't sure racing was going to... I mean, Peter Volandi's fair play kept racing going and allowed the whole thing to keep moving. Because I can imagine even your investors in the Colt Syndicate at the time would have been thinking, were you confident that your Colt Syndicate was going to be going up and going for Easter that year?
Well, it was interesting because it was an amazing time, COVID, because there was a lot of people that were sort of bailing out. We were so thankful in our Colts partnership. Not one of our partners pulled the pin or said, I'm not reinvesting, even though there was uncertainty. And that was a great opportunity for us. We bought some great horses at that Easter sale. But it was an extraordinary time, and people didn't know whether the world was going to end or whether we were going to get through or whatever. And to be fair to Gavin Murphy, who's the partner in Newgate and head of SF Bloodstock, he was one of the brightest guys that we all know. He was very clear in the fact that this was an opportunity, and like Warren Buffett says, buy when people are needy and sell when they're greedy. And that point in time, there was a great dip in the market, and it ran all the way through to the mare sales, and it was a good year to get invested in some quality stock. And I think our syndicate bought 3 different stallions out of that year, and 3 Group 1 stallions out of that crop of yearling. So yeah, it was it was a real opportunity, and thankfully we had Gavin to give us the confidence to drive on and buy horses.
And was it also an interesting year where it was that year where you started to place the colts in different stables?
Yes, that's right.
It was Adrian had obviously been going with Gay for only a handful of years at the time. And
it was in about third or fourth season at that time. We trained a number of fillies for Henry and certain partners, and had some great success with some lovely fillies.
Conte
Patiro, Pinot in the Oaks.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was the first crop that we had an opportunity with the colts. So it was presented a great opportunity, and remember in the Congo was one of those particular on the from the Inlet Farm inspection. I was able to duck down to New Haven as well. So I guess delighted when he walked into the yard. I guess a bit of a clean slate when they get into the yard. You forget the type and the pedigree that they are, and sort of they got to prove themselves to you now through their early education. But I guess the exciting part through that early education, seeing the output of all those physical attributes that you described, like a big powerful horse. He was certainly that. I guess earliest memories was I like seeing that natural output from them from the very beginning, and I think the barriers is always a good indication. And the very first jump out from memory with him just sticks out. Early days, but just first time over there, the gates on the grass, and he would have been, 2 lengths out of the gates in front of everything else at his first time of going. He just showed brilliant natural speed. And again, when you talk about the physical makeup that you've described off the farm and what you're looking for, Henry, it all makes sense and it all falls into place. And he carried that all the way through, and that was sort of his greatest attributes throughout his racing career, wasn't it? Just that natural speed. Like the simplest way to probably describe him is just simply a very fast horse, with great speed. And I think where we saw the best of that, where he sustained that brilliant speed and probably a race like the Golden Rose, wasn't it?
100%. I loved early days, and he obviously jumped out like a rocket with you as a 2-year-old, and there was good, like your confidence in the horse was unbelievable. Adrian, I remember you ringing me saying this is a very good horse. He went to his first trial and he bolted up, and anyway, so John's got wind of the fact that this is a good horse, right? The 2-year-old. So now I'm getting the 0263 phone number from Burrell once a week. Finding out where he's going to run, what's going on. So it's great. I love those conversations, by the way, John. They're fantastic. But I get the call, and we have a bit of fun. His second trial, Tim Clark's riding him. Tim Clark wouldn't get off his back. He said he came back from holidays a day earlier to trial him in his second trial. He gets on him and just breezes up as easy as you want wins by 3 or 4, and the post race videos you do on your iPhone. So Adrian did the post race video of Tim Clark, and Tim said this thing's a rocket. It'll win wherever you go. It's a machine. But John, I had a couple of missed calls from John by the time the trial had over, and the post videos had come. So we got Tim to read the video and say, listen, he jumped out. It was a pretty slow trial. He probably looked a lot better than he actually is. And we fought on it, John. It really broke his heart.
There were no more calls coming.
There were no more calls till he went to the races, and first time out and showed from the get-go that we won his first start very dominantly. It was a good 2-year-old race, very good form race. I think it was midweek, but it was a very good form race, and he was very dominant as it was a winter 2-year-old.
And he really was, and phenomenal to see that improvement from him. We gave him a very light winter. It was a quick turnaround into the early part of the spring and into those 3-year-old sprinting races. And we went in with an open mind for the preparation and where we should take him. And went through the traditional. I think the Rosebud we kicked off in, and through the San Domenico run to the Rose. And each time he just put in a phenomenal performance, front running performance, sustained speed, and just kept lifting every time we sort of raised the bar. And we sort of got to the conversation that, the fortnight out from the Golden Rose, and given his pedigree and just how much brilliance he'd shown, with do we, how far do we want to try and stretch this natural pace and speed that he's got? And thankful we did sort of go to the Golden Rose and sort of back his class to do it, because that was a phenomenal performance there. Like he ran horses like Animo and that into the ground, didn't he? Like he had them putting up the red flag he had them chasing the whole way. Kicks again at the 600, again at the furlong. It's so hard for those classy horses to even run them down. It's just brilliant sustains, which is what we're always looking for those sort of 2-year-olds going forward, isn't it? That's what we look for in their selection, in the attributes from the Staines, what they pass on. So he's had that in spades, and I guess probably after that is where I feel we probably made a mistake in hindsight and sort of taking him down to the Coolmore. Like having been up through the winter and putting in such a big performance in the Golden Rose, I guess it was a hard decision, because he's a horse that's easily capable. He's got the ability to go win a Coolmore. It was probably just the timing we got wrong, in the sense that we're probably asking a bit too much of him at the end of a long campaign. But had we done things differently, not gone to Golden Rose or structured there's no doubt he had the ability to go win a Coolmore. Like he was just that fast, and the straight, I think, would have suited him. Just the way that race fell in the career, in hindsight, was probably just a bit too much. We kept him up too long, so it wasn't a true indication there. And that was sort of something I'd definitely do over again with him, I would say.
It's funny you say that, because he did start at very short price in the Coolmore, and it's very, very hard to have a colt with that pedigree and that performance and that physique to start a very short price in the Coolmore and not run it. So, whilst I understand, you look at these things in hindsight. I mean, I'm not sure what you'd have done, Johnny, but if if I have a favourite in a Coolmore, I'm probably going to run it.
You're probably going to run. But then you say with what Adrian said, like the pressure that he'd been under, like his run in the Golden Rose is about as good a run as you'd ever see a horse put in, I reckon. Like it was proper speed, proper courage, and sometimes you never realise the full value of these things until you look back. And every time I see that race now, and you see Animo chasing him down, you go, wow.
Particularly when what he went on to do as a...
Oh, that's what I mean. Like the horse that...
Yeah, I thought his run to the Rose performance was equally good, because in that particular race, a fortnight before, in the run to the Rose, the Group 2 race, he was taken on the whole way. It was taken on the whole way in the Congo by...
Stand inside.
Yeah, no,
Don't want to say that.
in the same colours. And him and Animo had a ding-dong battle to the line, and that day the photo went Animo's way, and then to back up in 2 weeks and the photo went his way. I mean, they were really, really great races. A couple of really top-class colts fighting them out, and I think, to me, his run in the run of the Rose was probably, as good as his run in the Golden Rose. They were just great races.
Yeah, It certainly gave us the confidence that, geez, this is a proper horse gave us the confidence well and truly to push on to the Golden Rose, no doubt. As you said, it was a huge run under the circumstances.
Yeah, and then in the autumn, in the Galaxy, I mean, he carried, what was it, equal weight for a 3-year-old?
He was a neck away from breaking a 3-year-old record carrying weight. So it was a difficult one, because we'd set his program up with Adrian for the Galaxy that year, and that was the race we wanted to target. And I think like 56.5 kilos, which is a huge amount of weight for a 3-year-old. And we were not going to run the horse, but we were sort of stuck in no man's land, because we'd programmed our way into that race the whole autumn. And his run on the Galaxy was phenomenal, just getting beat in the shortest of margins.
Heavy 9 as well, first up.
Oh, heavy 9 first up.
Yeah.
Well,
That one still hurts, yeah.
but a huge run and a huge run and I think that was again one of his really outstanding performances. For a colt with his resume and profile to run that well in a Galaxy with such a huge amount of weight. It was huge.
John, I know you'll be super proud to have raised a colt that's graduated all through the classes and now found himself in a really high commercial position at stud, and you've been good enough, and we're so grateful that you've come in and supported him now as a stallion, with mares based and going to be raised at New Haven, which is just a huge advantage for a young horse. But talk to us about the kind of mares you're trying to send him, and what you like for him sort of that way, either physically or might be genetically, or what you're sort of looking for to send him.
Well, I think that as I said, I think he's quite unique simply because of the outcross. Like, you've got the Reduced Choice, Danehill, Snitzel, all of that, but then you've got this beautiful outcross. So I think we can send Danehill line mares back to him, because we're a long way back, and I think that we can use some of the unusual things he's got in his pedigree. But he's a pretty easy horse to mate. Like, I wouldn't describe him as a big, strong horse. I think he's the perfect horse. He's not too big, he's not too small. And I think when you get a stallion, they're the good ones to mate to, because you actually breed an athlete. Some of the stallions, their horses are too big, too heavy, aren't they? Like, I think that's one thing that's stuck to Snitzel a lot, is he gets the right size. And I think in the Congo will breed us the right size. Like, as you know from the mares we sent some of our American Stakes winning mares to him, and I think he's going to be an easy stallion to mate to, because he's lovely and correct, and he's the right size. I think it's not going to be that difficult for us, really.
I suppose from Adrian, I know from your point of view, especially with the way you train and like your horses to run, his sort of natural speed, that gate speed that no one could lead, basically. He just was unmatched. That he'd be a horse that, come sale time, he's a horse that you're naturally going to sort of...
He'd be very high on the radar for us to support. Like, I love having that understanding of what he was like as a horse, passing those traits on. Probably one that we haven't touched on the whole time. I know he's got that unique speed, but his attitude, I'm sure when he arrived on the farm, the guys have had a great time handling him. He's just absolute bomb-proof all the way through. Never been Colty, he was just had a great constitution for work. Copped all the work too. Had a hard gallop. He'd be there ready for the next morning, ready to go out again. Would clean up, but just had a real great appetite for work. A lot of natural speed, but it was just he was doing it all well within himself. He wasn't sort of a fast horse over racing and doing too much within himself ever. He was always very contained with that speed. I think that's so important as well, particularly with those 2-year-olds. When you are asking a question of them early, you're wanting to utilise that speed, you're wanting to unlock it, but you don't want to risk sending a few of those over the top or getting them fired up or over racing in their races. There's one thing to be up on speed and over racing, you won't see it out, but to be showing that brilliance and running along, but doing it in a comfortable sort of zone and rhythm, that's how you want those horses in the right mind space. And I think he's just had the best temperament all the way through. I think if he throws that into everything as well, I think you're lengths ahead chance of getting those horses. And some of those that don't have that natural speed, we try and train into them, but I'll still back that horse that's got the right mindset behind it over the ones with the horses that have got the speed that just mentally cannot handle the prep.
Yeah, it's a great point, Adrian. You see in this day and age, John, we've spoken about this a couple of times, but that you could argue, and this is a bigger conversation, but the breed is getting weaker, right? And he's a horse that was hard, tough, retired, sound as a bell, clean-winded, correct, hardy, strong, powerful horse, the great attitude, great aptitude for his work. Like it's it's a huge asset, I think, in this day and age, retiring stallions to stud that not only had the Group 1 brilliance and form, but were hard-knocking, tough horses, and they've had thrown to their progeny. It's a huge advantage, you say, Adrian.
I could see trainers loving them. They'll get their hands on a horse that they can get up and going early. They train on for you. The versatility between the distance ranges, particularly given any types of mares that go, I'm sure we'll be able to get horses that get out to a mile for you a bit further if needed. But yeah, they're going to be tough horses that rock up week in, week out that the trainers can back up and keep taking to the races. And as you said, sound horses, so you're going to get a good career out of them. Like, what more do you want from your race horses?
Dead right.
Well said. Well, thank you guys. Thank you very much for your time, and looking forward to this journey in the Congo at stud with you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thanks, Henry.